Alright guys, it's another beautiful day in Los Angeles. Summer's right around the corner, and today's just one of those days that I'm very grateful for freedom. You know, I feel the sun and I can do what I want. March 25th of last year, I paroled from state prison, and a lot's happened in that year. You know, I'm a new father, got a wonderful little boy. He said dad for the first time last night. He's just about to turn 2. April 9th, same day that I got out of the feds in 2013 after my 5-year term. He just said dad for the first time last night, and those are precious moments that I would have missed if I was in prison or if I continued doing illegal shit when I got out this time. And it's just one of those days that I got to appreciate what I do have and not trip on the things that I don't have, because I know that stuff matters. I'm very grateful for the beautiful woman that I get to have sex with every night and share my life with and love and laugh with. She's not a batshit crazy. You're a drug addict. Oh my God. Spit out a Tylenol 3. I'm grateful for that, you know, and something huge happened today. Something about that big. Biggest thing in my career happened today. I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I can probably talk about it in about 60 days, but pretty big thing happened today, and it's kind of something I was working on and hoping would happen, and I got it. I signed, and it wasn't a fucking plea agreement, I'll say that much. So I'm very, very appreciative of everything right now. I'm just in a grateful mood, and I want to thank everybody, everyone that was a fan of the book originally when it came out in 2014, anyone that's bought it since, left reviews, bought the album, watching my channel, people that like, comment, subscribe, even the people that dislike, that leave bad comments. It doesn't matter. Just giving me a view, thank you. Because I really do think that what happened today would never have happened if I didn't have people helping me get there, you know, in whatever way. Just support, financially, just views, just helping me get out there a little more. So thank you guys so much. I'm trying to keep my little sales pitches down to under 5 minutes because I know that can get repetitive and boring, but check out patreon.com/Ryan Leone. We're doing the Megan video this week. That will be exclusive for that channel. I just put up the first episode of Tap Tuesday, 4-hour podcast episode pretty much that it's going to stay on Patreon. I'll never put that on this platform, but I will continue to put the stories and other content, so you don't have to go over there, but I appreciate you that do. We'll keep things going on YouTube as well. So thank you guys. Let's get into the story. I'm in trouble with the Southsiders at MDCLA. You know, I like sporty, and when I was in the first time, you know, in 2009 at MDCLA, I was green, I was a fish, and I was a pussy. I mean, you know, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about that. I was a straight bitch, and I was scared, and I didn't understand how things worked, and I didn't realize how much prison had changed me until I got out. And when I got out, a lot of things were different, you know, that I wish weren't. I was much more angry. I was violent for the first time in my life. I mean, you know, I'd gotten in fist fights or whatever, but when I got out of prison, I was like, I could go to 0 to 100 pretty quick. I had an ego malady. Cared more about what people thought about me. You know, who cares what people think about you, honestly? And it's taken me a long, long time to try to deprogram from that. You know, it's a lot of it's just an ego thing. You find that a lot with people in prison because you have to play a certain part. Like, red line, fuck that red line. Fucking, that red line can't do push-ups, that fucking piece of shit red line. You see a lot of guys like that in prison. And, you know, they're like, they get out and they're not exactly the kind of people that excel in society. The kind of people that, like, you're in prison with and they're like, hey, bro, I'm thinking about getting a swastika on my face. What do you think? Pretty dope, right? I don't know, man. You might want to think about that. I don't know if you'll be, you know, job worthy at that point, or job viable, whatever. Yeah, but you don't get it. You do not get it. You don't get it because you don't hate black people as much as me. You do not get it. You know what this swastika does to me? Do you know? 15 to 20 US dollars off any drug that comes into any jail and prison in the state of California. Yeah, I earned that. You know, and then they get out there and they're, you know, we've talked about this. You don't see them sunbathing with the face swastika tattoo. You just don't see that. It doesn't happen, and a lot of that is fear-based. A lot of that is ego-based. And I fell into that, and you don't notice that, you know, until you're just kind of sick of being that person. And, you know, if you're jealous before that, if you're insecure, all of that stuff's amplified. The reason that I was so emotionally abusive for so long was because I had an ego issue. It's because I had an ego issue. I went ice fishing in Egotin, you know. It's because I had an ego problem. I was insecure because I didn't feel worthy. So, you know, my eggs were overcooked. I was like, you're a fucking prostitute. And it took me a long time not to be like that. But in this particular situation, Ray Loco had called me a lame in front of my new cellie. And I had to take off on him. Because in my mind, as soon as he said that, I knew what it was. I knew I had to do it. And a lot of times that happens in prison. You know, even though there's a hands-off policy, now that can mean two things. You might hear that hands-off policy can either mean we don't fight at this prison, we stab. And you definitely don't want to be in a prison like that, but you know, it's like that at a lot of spots. In the higher security California yards, stay in the state level, and the USPs and the Fed level. There's a lot of spots where it's like, hands off. You got a problem with someone, you have to stab them, because if it's that serious, fuck fighting. Whack them. And then there's hands-off policy, meaning that you can't tee off on another race like that. You can't just dope fiend a Southsider because you feel disrespected. But then it's, you know, it's that conflicted thing. It's that paradox. Well, wait a second. I got to be somebody that doesn't take shit from someone, but if this guy gives me shit, I can't do anything because he's black or he's no. So you get very confused. And that's why I hit him. And if you remember, I busted his lip. He had a fat lip, and he had cut my face. I thought maybe if I stayed in my bunk, that maybe I would get away with it. But if we were both out there mingling in the day room, you know, people are going to put two and two together. Wait a second. Whoa. Wait a second. Ray Loco's got a fat lip. Leone's got a cut and a shiner. Do you think they fought? Way too chilly for that. No, you're going to be found out, and that's exactly what happened. Sorry for the rant, but... So, when Sporty came into my cell, I knew exactly what time it was. I knew that I was going to be in trouble, and I didn't know what was going to happen to me. Now, generally in a situation like that, your own people are going to DP you. But the only people in my car for the 95% of the people on this floor were fucking child molesters. What are they going to do? Tickle my ass? You know, they're not going to beat me up. It just wasn't that kind of atmosphere, which leads the default. The homies have to take care of it. You know, 57 Mexicans and the Armenian that they're extorting. They're all going to come in there and smash me out. Sporty goes, hey, you got to be honest with me. You got to be honest with me because you're putting me in a bad situation right now. Because they actually, when something like this goes on, this is how structured Soreños are. And I heard Norteños are even more structured than this. Like, they're militantly structured. But Southsiders, when something goes down, when two homies fight, or when it's something like this, when it's between the South Side and another race, they have to write an incident report in very small lettering on like a scroll, you know, and they like put a little bow on it. It looks like some shit that, I don't know why, but Wizard of Oz comes to mind, but that's a weird example, or a weird thing to say, but he's going to have to write an incident report to his big homie, which is somebody that's up there. I don't even have a big homie. I'm like, hey man, is there any Aryan Brotherhood dudes here? I don't really talk like that, you know, hey, do I have a big homie? No. So who do I answer to? The kitty porn kingpin? What am I going to do? I had nobody that I could call on. So I was honest with him. I said, look, yeah, dude called me a lame. What do you want me to do? I was schooled not to allow that. And he just looks at me and just he's like, you're putting me in a bad position right now. He's like, listen, you lied to me about it initially. And now he admitted it. So I know what went down before you had even told me right now. And we're going to keep it contained right now. But I got to get at the boss, El Jefe, the Repa. You got to get at his big homie. So basically he's telling me like, hey, you might be murdered in the next hour or so, but hey, sit tight right here. He did tell me this. He said, listen, the fact that you blessed me and blessed him, even though you're a white dude, says a lot. Because even a lot of the homies that are coming in right here aren't even doing shit properly. Then I pulled the old ace out of my sleeve and I said, look, didn't have sunglasses on, but just say I did. You guys are eating with blacks. So does it even matter? You're not following protocol. Why do I? I'm here watching the most backwards political shit I've ever seen in prison. I've never seen a Southsider eat with a black, ever. And I don't call black people that on the street. I don't, I'm not like some country hick where I'm like, damn, look, that one's a black. I don't talk like that. But in prison, that's how you talk. I'm like, you guys are eating with blacks. So now I'm getting somewhat confrontational with him. Not really. And kind of what I'm saying is, low key, I'm kind of saying, hey, like, you guys are on some bullshit. You gotta vouch for me. You gotta advocate that you guys don't do anything. And what he's telling me is like, hey, I can't promise you anything. I'm gonna let him know what happened, and we're gonna take it from there. And he's like, to be honest with you, between you and I'm gonna come to you before you get fucked off, because if they're gonna hit you, you're gonna get hit. But I can warn you, because you just gave me some blind love like that. You came in here and you were solid with me. I'll come in and I'll tell you, and then walk up to the cop and check in, say you gotta go. I'm like, I'm not checking in. There's no way I'm doing that. I'm about to go to Lompoc. Do you think? Yeah, all right. Hey, excuse me, CO, I gotta go. Oh, yeah, all right, guys. I'll see you later. Hell no. And then I get off the bus and get stabbed. There's no way I'm doing that. I didn't know what to do. We finish our conversation and he leaves. Now this is like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, Mike, what do you think we should do? He's like, well, I don't know. I've never been to prison. What typically happens in a situation like this? I'm like, typically what happens in a situation like this is I get killed. This is serious, man. You want to eat a honey bun? He's like, yeah. We eat a honey bun and we start thinking about everything. I'm sick too. Like, let's not forget that aspect of it. I'm sick. I just got in a fight. Believe me, when you're dope sick and you get in a fist fight and you have lumps on the back of your head, they hurt more than they would normally. I'm confused. My ex-wife is probably getting butt-fucked in some bathroom stall at a nightclub at that moment. It's like 4 in the afternoon. But I'm just going through a lot. And the fact that I'm detoxing makes me more confused than I normally would be. And my cellie has never been to prison, so he can't give me advice. You know, he's been living in a fantasy book for 6 months. What is he going to tell me? Dude, slay him. No. I don't know what to do. No one to talk to. So, I just lay in my bunk. So I'm not going to roll it up. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to... And not because I'm solid and I care about my prison reputation. That doesn't matter when you get out. You're at a job interview. They're like, so, well, hey, I've never rolled it up in prison. Employer's like, you've been to prison? You're definitely not getting hired here. And shit doesn't impress people out in the free world. No one cares. But you got to remember, when you're in prison, when you've done, I've done like 5 years, more than that if you count all the county jail time up at that point. I've done a lot of time. The political stuff is so ingrained in me. I live it, speak it, breathe it, and I don't even realize it. And it's hard to get back adjusted, to get acclimated into normal life when you have that mentality. You know, I mean, someone doesn't say excuse me when they fart in a convenience store and you knock them out. Yeah, stuff like that happens. There's a lot of guys that you'll see that are convicts. Well, you won't see because they're always in prison, but they'll get out for like a day or two and they'll knock somebody the fuck out, stab somebody, shoot them because they feel disrespected. There's a book called In the Belly of the Beast by Henry, I don't know, the last name's Abbott. In the Belly of the Beast is the best book on prison I've ever read. And Norman Mailer, who's a novelist I like a lot, was writing a book. Was it The Executioner Song, I think was the name of it. And this guy, Abbott, was a career criminal, career convict. He'd been in prison for most of his life, been in reform school, gotten abused, and he was institutionalized. And he knew that Norman Mailer was going to write this book on prison, so he wrote him and said, listen, I'm a very articulate, intellectual convict, and I want to tell you what prison's really like. And they start corresponding, and this guy wrote so beautifully. I mean, this guy wrote some of the most darkly poetic prose I've ever read. Seriously, that's a book that has stuck with me my entire life, ever since I read it. Guy endured a lot of torture, and the system was a lot worse back then. It was very cruel. And that book, In the Belly of the Beast, became a literary sensation when it was published. I think it was published in like the early 80s. And Norman Mailer was an influential writer, and he was friends with influential actors and other artists. And they told the parole board that he should be released because he could contribute so much to the literary world, and they released him. Very shortly after, I believe it was the first night, I think it was the first night he got out. And if it wasn't, it was shortly after that. But he went out to dinner. A waiter supposedly disrespected him. He got the steak knife, and he stabbed the guy like 17 times in the neck and killed him. And there's a lot of people like that are so institutionalized that they just can't function in a normal society. I didn't realize, and I mean, I'm not that extreme, but for a while I couldn't deal with the disrespect. My dad used to call me a punk when I was growing up. He didn't mean like I was some prison sex slave. At least I hope that's not what he meant. But, if he was mad at me, he'd be like, Ryan, you're being a punk. And I'd be like, okay, Dad, I'm sorry. I'll try not to be a punk anymore. Then I'm like 27, 28. If my dad called me a punk, I would be like, what did you say? And I'd be like throwing computers through windows. I'd be like, fuck! And he'd be like petrified of me. That's what prison did to me. And that's why I stayed in that bad situation that time. So I'm laying in bed. And Sporty comes back 2 hours later. Now, the entire time that he's gone, I'm laying in the bunk and I'm talking to my cellie. I'm trying to get my mind off of the imminent danger because I can intuitively feel that it's coming. When Sporty finally comes back a couple hours later, whenever it was, he's with this other Southsider. And this other Southsider's like tattoos all over his face. He's a lifer. He was in the state system, somehow got indicted for something federally in state. And he kind of looked like the Scarecrow from the Batman series, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, he looked like that, but just covered in tattoos. And he was very animated, like, yo, check it out. He was one of those, check it out. And if he talked, that's what he would do. Like, these crazy, pretty impressive, body language moves. And he was with that guy, but I knew he was a lifer, and I knew he had, like, killed people. He had all this, like, crazy political ink that, after doing years and years in prison, you can decode. You know what lightning bolts mean on a white guy. You know what certain Aztec tattoos mean on a Sereno. And you just start kind of figuring out what different political tattoos mean. He had all that. His tattoos were like, yeah, I've basically done the equivalent of a mall massacre during my short time in the system. And that's, I think it's a way to almost advertise how dangerous you are. And it definitely worked. I was like, oh my God, that guy? Fuck. Porty comes in there, he's like, hey, get up. I'm like, I jump off the bunk. And my heart is beating. I'm like, oh my God. It's over for me. Fuck it. All right, whatever. I'm just going to close my eyes and hopefully I don't get killed. So I walk up to him and I just stand tall. A lot of times that's what you got to do in prison, regardless of what could happen. And when I say stand tall, I'm 5'6", so I'm like looking up at them. I'm like, eyes closed, like, he goes, hey, I just came to tell you it's a dead issue. And I'm like, well, that went a little more favorably than I had originally anticipated. Why? He's like, because we fucking removed Ray Loco. Like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, we got rid of that fool. He's fucking gone. I'm like, did you kill him? He's like, no, we just beat him up. He's off the floor now. He got taken out on a gurney, though. Got you. I'm like, why would you beat him up when I'm a different race and I took off on him first? And he's like, I don't know. You blessed the big homie. He told me that we can't have stuff where people are disrespecting you for no reason. Because he knew my situation. I told him the whole thing about how I had called my ex-wife. She had said dumb shit on the phone. I hung up on her. He got written up for it. And that's why he was mad. And that's why he called me a lame. I guess there's some clause in the Mexican political handbook that's like, A178D. If a civilian says something sketchy on the phone you get mad at another race, it is not the other race's fault. He's like, look, it's like, that's out of your control. He's like, you came in here, you took care of us. He's the one that made the mistake by calling you a lame. So we got rid of him. I'm like, oh, why do you have the scary lifer guy with you? He's like, I don't know. Just in case you try to take off on me. And he starts laughing. He like elbows me. Felt like I was at some fucking golf club or something with him. And that was it. The end of the story. It's the end of my YouTube shit. All right, guys. No. And I mean, at this point, I probably hadn't slept for who God knows how long. I have dry semen all over my, my federal issued pants. I'm just beating off so recklessly. I'm not cleaning it up, and I'm just sick, and I'm having these in-depth conversations with my cellie, and he's very depressed, and I'm trying to educate him on prison. And I'm almost delirious, and then that incident happened, and I'm so scared that something very, very bad's going to happen to me. But they took care of it. So shortly after that, we have stand-up count. So they come and they lock our cell, and, you have to stand up in the middle of the cell, so they can walk by and they can do a count, make sure that the census is correct. They do that for security purposes in case, there's, like a mannequin in the bed, like in Alcatraz. That's how guys escaped. It's basically to prevent escape, to make sure you're still alive. It's a way for them to look at your face to make sure that you're not beat up, whatever. There's ways around that, though. I mean, you can stand at an angle, which is what I was doing. And a lot of times, because you can hear a pin drop in that situation. They're walking down the different ranges or the tiers, and it's very, very quiet. That's like, the time that it's like everyone's quiet time. You'll hear people once in a while yell, "Hey, one to a bunk," just as a joke, and you can hear it reverberate, and like you can hear like a bunch of people start laughing, as if like the cop said that, like, "Hey, one to a bunk," and like he's seeing like two cellies in bed together or something. So they're doing the walk, and I start hearing them open cells, which they never do. And so I look out my window, and you can look out this little window of the cell, and I'm telling my cells, like, he's been there for a while. I was like, "Hey, man, what in the fuck is happening, man? Why are they opening doors?" And I'm kind of like looking, I can't really see what they're doing, and then all of a sudden it hits me. They're doing knuckle check. My knuckles have cuts on them. I have a shiner. I have a cut right here. I know for sure that as soon as they see me, I'm going to the hole. Under investigation for whatever happened to Ray Loco. I guess they removed him. And a removal's usually 4 or 5 Southsiders in their early 20s. They want to get a tattoo. They want to earn their tattoo. And then one day, they can have their entire body covered in tattoos, and by that point, you're doing a life sentence for sure. That's what was up with Scarecrow. That wasn't his name, but, he looked like one, or the character. I'm like, damn, dude, I think I'm hit right now. I think I'm hit. And Mike's like, see, Mike was the voice of reason, because he had not been skewed by the weird ego or prison political shit that I was talking about earlier. And he's like, well, I don't know. I don't think they're going to think that you did that by yourself. I mean, I'm sure that they beat him up pretty badly. Everyone knows you're kicking heroin right now. I don't think they're going to think nothing. Cops come. They open our cell. Leon? It's Leone. They're like, "Hey, man, put your hand..." Then they see my face. They're like, "Hey, what happened?" I'm like, "Dude, that's not even this isn't even from here. I've been in custody for a week, 10 days. Does that look fresh to you?" It looked completely brand. I had a black eye. Now, both these cops were white. Let me tell you something. As racially divided as prisons are, correctional officers tend to side with whatever race they are. If they're a Hispanic CO, they tend to favor Hispanics. If they're a white CO, whites, black, Samoan, Islander, other, you generally don't have a CO, so you're kind of fucked. But both of these guys were white. Now, they could tell that I was lying to them. And they're like, "Let me see your ID." Give them the ID. And they're like, "What really happened? You've been in here for way too long for what that looks like. Tell us the truth. And you're not going to the hole right now under investigation. because we just took someone out on a fucking stretcher, and they're looking for the smoking gun right now. So unless you want to be held responsible for that, I suggest you tell us exactly what happened. Now, time out. Freeze frame. In a situation like this, cops, whether it be correctional officers, whether it be sheriffs, whether it be drug enforcement agents, FBI, doesn't matter. Law enforcement in general. And yes, COs are under that umbrella. We'll always say this. Hey, we're keeping you locked up like an animal, but we swear, if you tell us the truth, we'll treat you fairly. Yeah, right. You're not treating me fairly right now. I'm being treated like a fucking possum, a pet possum. Again, sometimes I'm trying to use examples and very weird, random shit comes out. And I'd known that. The last time that I was honest with law enforcement, I had told my PO that I got a DUI, and now I'm sitting in jail for it. Fuck that. I'm like, all right, man, to be honest with you, I fell getting into my bunk. I'm kicking right now. You see how sick I am, because they have notes of that. They see me all night, not them, but other staff that work at night. They'll see me puking. I was puking a lot. And this is like dope sick prison puking is some of the most disgusting vomit you can possibly have, because I'm living off mackerel and soybean oil, and that soybean oil just kind of spews out of your nostrils, and it's all like slick and oily. And you can taste fish just coming out of you. It's so gross. It reminds me of my ex-wife's vagina. So they knew that I was sick. They knew that wasn't bullshit. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is, man. I'm staying up all night. I'm puking. I'm not sleeping. I tried to get off the bunk, and I fell. Now, they look at me, and they're like, Leone, you expect us to believe that? I expect you to believe it because I'm white. Say it right like that. Throwing my hand down. I got trips, they got a low pair. I said it what it was. Kind of smirks, and he's like, look, I'm going to backlog that this happened to you a couple days ago so that our asses are covered. Because we don't think you did this anyway. We think that you might be involved with it to some degree, but you don't seem like you belong here, Leone. Neither do you, Mike. They look at Mike. He looks like the shoveler from Home Alone, shoveling salt. We didn't look like the rest of those guys. We didn't have area code mustaches and shit, I mean, I look a lot more like a convict than Mike did, but we were white. We were in their little club, and that's honestly the reality of how most jail and prison works. Correctional officers are usually just as racist as inmates. And although I've said it repeatedly that I'm not racist, one of the key survival elements of being incarcerated is knowing how to play the part expertly. They let me go. They knew that I was lying. They didn't care. Like I said, I showed my hand. Kind of a risky move. I mean, if that doesn't go correctly, that could really get me in trouble. I mean, I think that's like, I don't know. I mean, the racial, it's whatever. I mean, I've heard of people trying to bribe cops and being cheapskates, like going a little too low. Like they get caught like smuggling heroin in, and they're like, dude, I'll have my wife PayPal you $80. They're like, what? Put your hands behind your back. But, sometimes you can, like I said, you can call your hand and they'll ride with you. So I end up getting out of it. I have no idea what happened to Ray Loco. I know he wasn't there anymore. The fact that I got to that place and I was proper when other people weren't is the reason that I didn't get fucked off by them. It's the reason I didn't go to the hole. because I knew how to play the game, and it went to my advantage because I was with such an unsolid group of inmates. The first time I was in MDCLA, Sharky was making batches of Pruno in like a fake section of his wall. He had a hollowed out point that the COs knew he was doing it. COs would bring us Del Taco, Hustlers, Penthouses. It was more corrupt back then because the inmate population was more solid. And when guys are really solid, when everyone's just keeping their mouth shut and staying in their own lane, and there's a corrupt cop, that's when corrupt cops start doing corrupt things because they feel more safe. In this environment, all the chomo epidemic and, Southsiders that are eating with black inmates, cops have been doing this longer than the inmates. They know what's up. They know that this group is fresh and new and not doing things within the political structure that they're supposed to be. And that's what happened. And Sporty and I became friends. That was like my road dog during that period. And Mike and I became friends. Those were probably like my two closest allies while I was there. Now, I had no idea when I was going to Lompoc, but I knew I was going. And I kept just trading everybody for atomic fireballs. Now, I was down to, I don't know, I think one balloon left. And somebody asked me, they're like, well, where did you keep the balloons? After you had taken them out of your butt. I'd keep them cheeked, not up my butthole, but I'd keep them in my butt cheeks, and I'd be in a perpetual butt cheek clench. I was in my cell most of the time anyway. It's not like I was going out and like mingling with people. But, when I went to sleep at night, I'd go to sleep with the balloon in my butt, in the cheeks. A lot of time, I'm like a pretty like sloppy, disorganized person. So a lot of times I'd wake up and there'd just be like some shitty balloon just chilling on the bunk. I'd be like, oh my God. And I'd like grab it and put it back in. And that was pretty much what I was doing. I was just kind of waiting to get to Lompoc, and my ex-wife and I were fighting very badly. Now that I was able to call, she wasn't picking up all the time, and she's telling me that she's working, and I was so mad that she didn't come and visit me. And every time I would, call, why would I want to? Yeah. Remember, she had hung up on me. Yeah, many dicks I can suck. But eventually I called her back and we smoothed things out. And I think she was being nice to me because she knew that I'd be sending her more money. And I did. Because I'm a John. I'm a sucker. I'm a simp. Whatever you want to call me. I am not cool. Women are my kryptonite. Always have been. I make bad decisions based on women. Why did I go back to save Megan at Mike Virgin's? Because I'm a fucking John. Why did I continue to send her money when she's out there sucking 83 dicks or whatever she said? At the same time, probably. Because that's how codependent I am. That's my inherent need for love. Is that severe? Makes me an idiot. Girls have always gotten me in way more trouble than drugs have. Drugs and girls, usually with like a motel to bridge both worlds together, is like the worst combination for me. So, eventually, now I'm down to like my last $100 worth of tobacco. I think I had raised $3,000 cash for her. And I had people, like I had said in the previous video, going to meet her and giving her cash. There wasn't a paper trail. There's no way to prove it. Impossible. Use other people's phones or have people call her, email, whatever. Nothing could be traced back to me. And that's how I kept it. I think I sent her about $3,000, $2,800, something like that. I had more commissary than I knew what to do with. I bought Mike a radio. I gave him shoes. I got a huge sack of commissary just to leave to him. And, you know, I think I was at MDCLA for another week. The alcohol withdrawal finally went away. And my sleep pattern was still messed up, but finally I wasn't feeling heroin withdrawal either. It just all kind of, eventually I started rebounding at this point. And every night, I didn't know which night the bus was going to come for Lompoc. But what they'll do is they'll come tell you at like midnight, 1 in the morning, hey, Leone. It's Leone. Leone. You're catching the chain, man. Transport. Roll all your shit up. So they'll tell you in the middle of the night, and then you'll go. You know, you pack all your stuff up, put it in a laundry bag, you walk out to the day room. It's like you and like a couple other people that are leaving, and then the whole transport process happens. And I'd ask every night, hey, am I on the list? Do you know if I'm on the transport list? You know, because I'd been designated. That's what it's called in the federal system, being designated. That's when you know where you're going. Once you're designated, then whenever there's movement to that particular institution, you go. Forget what it's called in state. I get all these terms mixed up. But whatever. Anyway, in the feds, you know, I'd ask every night, and I started feeling better. And then one night, that's what happened. He told me to leave, or it's time to go. And we will get into going to Lompoc, meeting Big Meech, the big showdown with my ex, her mom. Yes, stop emailing fans of mine trying to get dirt on me. It's not cool. You can't sue me for slander. I don't say your name. I don't say her name in these stories. Have a disclaimer. Please, stop with your bullshit threats. I appreciate everybody that's watching my videos. Please like, comment, subscribe, dislike, leave bad comments, masturbate, I don't care. We're almost at the 10,000 mark. Megan video is just about to premiere. Much love to all of you. Be grateful if you're not inside of a cell today. And if you are and you're watching this, hats off to you guys. Good job working some CO into bringing a phone to you guys, or however you're getting it. Love to everyone out there. See you next time. Palabra.